мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
We are under attack. It is an attack against Western democracies and on the institutions that bind them.
What Russia's much more interested in doing is depicting the West as a failure.
The regime and President Yanukovych, they were trying to protect their enormous wealth.
This is Kremlin File.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Kremlin File. Olga and I are really pleased, super excited actually, to introduce you all and speak with Artem from InformNapalm. Hello, Artem.
Hello, I'm honored to be with you, ladies, and looking forward to our conversation.
Yes, yes, exactly. Artem, you need to know that we've been following your work for years, absolute years, and I know that there's some people out there that don't know anything at all about the organization itself and all of the fantastic work that the whole team there actually do. So could you please, tell some of our listeners who don't know anything about you a little bit about the organization and all of the work that you're doing?
As they say in our parts, we are widely known in narrow circles.
Yes.
As it turned out, to start with, our organization is not very new. We are turning 10 years old in the end of March this year, and we've been quite a lot at it, and our core activity is open source intelligence. As we call ourselves on our website, we are an international open source intelligence community. So and it is a volunteer community. So it is done by people in their spare time. And by the word international implies that we come from different countries. The core of our group was started by a Ukrainian guy from Crimea and by a Georgian guy from Georgia, who started investigating the activities of Russia during the invasion, the initial invasion of Crimea, because as you remember, there were like little green men without insignia and so on, and Russia said, well, we are not there, and the Roman Burko, our founder, set about to show the world that no, you are there actually, and the things they were doing there became public because of him and because of Irakli from Georgia, and then the invasion of Donbass happened and so on, and so we started investigating what Russia does, and at a certain point we noticed that there are certain interesting IP addresses that pop up in on our website as visitors all the time. Some of them were like Washington DC, Pentagon, some were like Israel and so on. So we kind of, as we had connections with the hackers, we could see that we are actively read by the intelligence services, and that was actually very, how to put it, very flattering. And Roman even published it and said that we are kind of flattered to be read by the professional audiences. And then all of a sudden, these IP addresses disappeared from our logs. So the guys did follow what we wrote and so on. So it shows that what our community is doing in their free time and so on is in the first place appreciated. But by 2018-17, we of course started getting certain contacts and from the intelligence services and approaches and so on. So it showed that what we did was important, was noticed. But of course, the general public could know very little about us, and that is clear because if you go into especially into the history of our publications, some of them are rather boring, you know. So like going into very deep detail of certain you know, like the presence of Russian soldiers in Ukraine in the Donbass. Yeah, the Russians said this is the insurrection of the people, you know, in the east of Ukraine, and we set about showing the world that no, these are not the miners of Donetsk and Luhansk. These are like professional Russian officers and soldiers who kind of fuel this conflict, who command those. Yeah, they do recruit the locals, but in the core, it is a hybrid Russian war. But of course, if you go into, you know, if you start to read this article, which is full of like Slavic names and a lot of murky geography and explanation how we traced this or that soldier to his military unit and so on. Yeah, this is the stuff which could be interesting for the professional reader, but probably would not be very exciting to read for your usual
let's say a general audience.
Yeah.
Well, no, there's a lot of people that I know. Some of your investigations, for example, some of the seminal work that you guys have done right now is being picked up, okay, by some, let's say, researchers or journalists, high-level journalists, and now they're starting to pay attention of some of the real work that you guys did, for example, on the Putin youth program, for example, all of the education, how they militarized the education and all of that kind of thing.
Soviet brainwashing.
Besides that,
I said Soviet brainwashing.
Yeah, exactly. And right now they are paying attention, right? I mean, this is, and I laugh because I see some people posting things, and then I put your article under there that was from 2017. And I said, oh, these guys have already been there, done that. You know, they've already really investigated this stuff right down. That's why.
We did things before they became mainstream.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, from my standpoint, so who am I in the community? I'm the editor of the English page of InformNapalm, and basically my role when I joined the community back in 2016 was like to look at the process of writing and the translation and so on, and make it more professional, because I'm a professional translator. And so what I've noticed is that the guys were writing very emotionally and used a lot of like black humor, so to say, in their writing. Especially Irakli was really
dark,
known for that. Yeah, it was difficult. It was really difficult to translate him. And what I was trying to tell them all, that guys, you need to write stuff less emotionally, focus on detail, be more precise and concise, and so on. So we kind of built another approach to writing. And of course, it was difficult for the usual mainstream media, even though they could recognize the value in what in the facts that we were giving on our pages, to quote us, because it was written in such a language. The translations were not professional, so I introduced the certain translator tools. I wrote the style guide. I made the glossary and so on. So as to stay consistent in our language. And by with time, we kind of grew into being more of a professional media. Although we are volunteers, this is all done like.
Yeah,
this is all basically not very professional stuff. Yeah, it is amateurish in its essence. But being amateurs, we didn't limit our creative energy. And although if you look at the behind the scene, behind the curtain, what's going on in the community, it's like a creative chaos. But in the end, something coherent and informative comes out in the form of our articles. And yes, we saw lots of things that were not obvious to the general audience, and we tried to warn people. You remember the brainwashing of the youngsters. There were also other things that we picked up and noticed. For example, the buildup of the Russian military power on the Russia's western borders, and we have, like, it's good to be a community because you get people from different backgrounds with different knowledge and different experience. We have a couple of military people who kind of made us aware of the numbers and of the composition of the military units and so on that were being moved from central Russia and from Asian parts of Russia close to the western border, to the border with Ukraine. And we were some of the early warners about the preparations for an invasion that we saw by the composition of them, let's say, military hardware that they were moving there. They were preparing preparing a strike force, an invasion force, basically, and so on. So yeah, it's like we keep our eyes open and try to catch the trends and to see the things that are probably not immediately visible. And it's actually everybody can do it. What is so what is so great and inspiring about the work that we are doing is that anybody with a mind to look closely and to analyze can do this. And we have different people from different countries who just had no background in intelligence, but joined the community and became very
learned
from each other. And learned from each other quite a lot. Yes, and then became very sharp and definitely, I would say, in a way, professional.
Yep. And we'll also be putting in the show notes, let's say, links to where you can find the actual publication online, but also, I mean, I follow you guys on Telegram, so there are different, ways that you can get information from them.
Yeah, but Telegram has become a very important channel recently, because writing features requires a lot of time, and people, many people in our community are now actually fighting. They have joined the army. We have quite a few guys who our spokesman Mikhailo Makaruk is serving at the 8th Special Forces Regiment, for example. Some people are helping with the intelligence in the intelligence in the Ukrainian military intelligence service, and so on. So some are there in the front line, some are in let's say in the headquarters and doing the intel. So what I'm trying to say is that time is a very scarce resource now. Therefore, we write much less than before, whereas we could do like 1 or 2 articles a week in the past. Now it's like maybe we write 1 a month, 1 or 2 a month. But Telegram is a very fluid kind of channel where everything that we discuss internally and everything that is that looks interesting, that looks promising, could be put out very quickly there, and then we get a lot of valuable feedback from the readers through Telegram. So it's a very useful channel.
Good
feedbacks and clues and and hints and so on.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I remember when InformNapalm began coming together after the invasion, and I mean, they were really key in explaining to people what is happening, because a lot of people really, they didn't understand, they didn't know how Russia operates, and They believed that it was some kind of separatist, and I mean, to this day, you have, you know, this idiotic Western media who continues to separatist,
You
and, you
still
know,
hear
kind
it.
of,
It's true.
yeah, detach it from actual Russia, and you know, that there were a lot of their special forces mixed in and whatnot. Now, speaking of investigations, Artem, InformNapalm recently just received a new dump of data. And in this data, it focused on a very little known institute called the Institute of Scientific Information for Social Sciences, INION. And the director, Kuznetsov, and his aide, Roman Sekalev. Um, can you discuss this institute and discuss, you know, because frankly, after I read the data that came out of it, I mean, to me, it basically sounded like, you know, rereading some Soviet, you know, aspirations of wanting to become the superpower of the world, to cause a world conflict, to, you know, overthrow democracy and whatnot. Can you discuss briefly about this investigation and what you found was particularly striking about it?
Let me tell you a short story about my encounter with some people in Austria, and that would probably be a good illustration to what you're asking. I was there visiting friends, and they introduced me to a guy who has access to the higher command. And what he told me is that his friends at the Austrian army got some analysts and whatnot got consistently surprised by Putin and by his decision making, that he did things they didn't expect of him to do. Yeah, so they made bad decisions, bad for Russia and so on. And they didn't expect the big invasion. They thought that it would not happen, so I was surprised that they kind of were so clueless, because Putin gives a lot of clues as to what he's going to do and his thinking and so on. And then I understood that it was not only the Austrian military who got him consistently wrong. So I told them, guys, are you aware of this philosopher Ivan Ilyin? And he said no, which was surprising. So I tried to tell him about Ilyin and about the facts around this philosopher, and Putin's infatuation with his ideas and so on. So everything that happened after 2008, when we got the first the first wake-up call in Georgia, it fit very well in the Ilyin's visions and views and writings. For example, Ilyin says that there is no Ukraine. Anybody who is using this word Ukraine is an enemy of Russia. This should be one nation, one people. Does it ring any bells? Yeah, one people, a single nation, and so on. So Russia doesn't need democracy. Russia needs a simulacrum of democracy, because Russia has a very special role, special innocence, and any war that Russia would start with the decayed West is a sacred war, and Russia is always Russia would always have a moral high ground and so on. So if you read into this, you can pretty well see what this guy is up to. Yeah, he wants to be in the textbooks, in his history textbooks, and in order to be in the history textbooks, you need to have a kind of a certain ideology. So what these guys from INION do is they reinforce Putin in his ideological in his ideological basics. He definitely likes what they write. So, of course, coming back to the investigation, yes, why this investigation is so important? Because you can think, okay, these are some ramblings of crackpot research center, and what do they have to do, or what can they have to do with the official policies? But history has showed us that certain people have a lot of influence on Vladimir Putin and on the decision making and on the policies that they're introducing and following and implementing. So INION is just one of those like pools of thought that look set to influence the Putin's decision making in the nearest future.
Hi, everybody. If you enjoyed this podcast and you'd like to help us out with our independent work, please subscribe to Kremlin File on Substack and on our YouTube channel. Kremlin File is hosted by Olga and me, Monique Camarra. Our production team is headed by Maddie Kaparov, and the theme music by Oreste Camarra. So please don't forget to visit our Kremlin File Substack for links to our socials and to wherever you'd like to listen to podcasts.